Welcome back to this special edition of Hannity. I loved being able to talk to Border Patrol Agent Brandon Judd and Sheriff Paul Babu. The on-the-ground perspective is super important. You can find me at townhall.com and on Twitter. Unfortunately, that's all the time we have this evening. Thank you for joining us. Make sure you DVR so you never miss an opportunity to see Sean Hannity. He's back tomorrow. Have a great night. Jason Chaffetz is up next. He's filling in for Laura Ingraham tonight.
Oh, thanks, Katie. Great show. And welcome to the Ingraham Angle from New York. I'm Jason Chaffetz, in tonight for Laura Ingraham. April is already off to a manic start in Washington. Republican candidates are running ads highlighting Hillary Clinton, and it's driving the Democrats crazy. Plus, we'll examine why Democrats are rushing to defend fired FBI official Andrew McCabe as a victim when he could be in serious legal trouble. And after tearing down Confederate statues, the PC police have a brand new target. We'll tell you which slice of American history is next on their chopping block. But we begin with the president's strong new push to secure the border and reform immigration. In a new round of tweets this evening, the president writing, quote, "As ridiculous as it sounds, the laws of our country do not easily allow us to send those crossing our southern border back where they came from. A whole big wasted procedure must take place. Mexico and Canada have tough immigration laws, whereas ours are an Obama-joked act, Congress." The president adding, Honduras, Mexico, and many other countries that the U.S. is very generous to, sends many of their people to our country through our weak immigration policies. Caravans are heading here. Must pass tough laws and build the wall. Democrats allow open borders and drugs and crime. Let's get the inside story on why the president is changing tactics from Fox News national correspondent Ed Henry at the White House for us tonight.
Jason, great to see you. Breaking tonight, a Justice Department official has just confirmed to Fox News that, in fact, they are now, within the Trump administration, instituting quotas for federal immigration judges to try and speed up deportations of illegal immigrants out of this country. It comes after the union for these judges had a prohibition in place that did not allow these quotas. The quotas have now been lifted. A justice official saying, quote, "These performance metrics, which were agreed to by the immigration judge union that is now condemning them, are designed to increase productivity and efficiency in the system without compromising due process." This comes, as you noted, as a caravan of about 1,100 people fleeing Central America is traveling through Mexico right now. Some seeking political asylum there, while others are trying to make it to the U.S. border, which we know is porous. That drew the president's ire on Easter Sunday as he walked into church with the First Lady amid a report that Mexican immigration officers are simply monitoring this caravan from afar because it's so large, rather than figuring out who has valid passports. Watch.
Mexico has got to help us at the border. If they're not going to help us at the border, it's a very sad thing between two countries. Mexico has got to help us at the border. And a lot of people are coming in because they want to take advantage of DACA. And we're going to have to really see. They had a great chance. The Democrats blew it. They had a great chance. But we'll have to take a look. But Mexico has got to help us at the border. They flow right through Mexico. They send them into the United States. Can't happen that way anymore.
Now, PolitiFact noted it's misleading to conflate that caravan with DACA because only people who have lived in the U.S. since June of 2007 were eligible for DACA, though we have seen illegal immigrants obviously find ways to get all kinds of other benefits in California and other states, which is why the president sent a series of tweets over the last 48 hours, including a demand that Senate Republicans kill the 60-vote filibuster barrier on legislation so he can get the wall and maybe other key illegal immigration measures with just 51 votes, a straight majority. Now, Democrat Dianne Feinstein did not take kindly to that tweet you mentioned a moment ago that you just showed, also to comments from the president saying that DACA is dead. Feinstein saying that the president blaming Democrats for a stalemate is not true. She insists that she could support funding for a wall if the president would just compromise. Feinstein saying, quote, "President Trump is absolutely wrong on DACA. He unilaterally rescinded DACA for no reason and has rejected every single bipartisan proposal that would protect dreamers from deportation. It's simply false to say that Democrats walked away from the table. Now, the big picture is the president realizes this is a way to rally his political base. He won in part in 2016 on this issue of illegal immigration. He wants to fire up that base ahead of the midterms, which is going to be an uphill battle for Republicans, as you know, Jason. But the bottom line is, breaking tonight, BuzzFeed says that Mexican authorities are vowing, or at least claiming, that they're going to break up this caravan by Wednesday. But as Ronald Reagan used to say, trust but verify, Jason.
Well, thanks, Ed. That would be a great development, because there are a lot of people concerned that really what the Democrats are trying to do is they like the issue. They don't want to actually solve the problem. But we've got to also understand what's happening on the ground. So let's examine where we go from here on border security and immigration reform. We have with us tonight Border Patrol Agent Hector Garza. He's the Vice President of the National Border Patrol Council, and Francisco Hernandez, who's an immigration attorney. Hector, I've been with you down on the border. I appreciate the great work the men and women do. It's amazing, hard, and difficult. But tell us, what is happening right now on the border? Are people able to get across? And what if all of a sudden 1,100 people showed up in your sector?
Well, what's happening on the border is that catch and release is alive and well. And unfortunately, a lot of the Obama holdovers within our agency are still implementing those same policies that were in effect under the Obama administration. Unfortunately, if this caravan makes it to the southern border and they cross illegally into our country, they will be processed, but then they'll be released on a notice to appear, which means that they'll disappear into the American communities and they'll never return to court.
Now, Francisco, what is the case? Yes. Why not build this wall? The video that we were just showing was video that I took when I was down on the border. You see a wall, and then it stops, and it just becomes barbed wire fence. So,
right.
Why not build the wall? What's the best case you got? Why not put one up?
Okay, first of all, public officials and law enforcement officials have to remove politics from doing their job. Our Sheriff Bill Wayborn in Fort Worth does that right now. The problem is you can build a wall, but all you're going to get,
nothing to do with the wall. I want to know what is your best case?
I'm trying to tell you.
Well, I just want you to focus on the wall. Why not build an actual wall?
Okay, look, we can't do it. But if you want to do it, go and build it.
You can't do it. What do you mean you can't do it? You saw the video that I just had.
We tried in 2001. It doesn't work. We get deeper tunnels, taller ladders. The problem is you got to reform immigration laws here. The ones that we have are not working. You're right, Mr. Border Patrol Agent. Are you telling me that ICE and Border Patrol can't do their job without the cities and local governments helping? Are you saying you need Mexico to control our borders? I don't think you can say that.
Hector, give him a chance to answer. Hector, would a wall help you or not help you?
So a wall would definitely help Border Patrol operations. As a matter of fact,
Hector, that's all I want to know. Francisco, go back. Explain to me. The guy works. He spent decades serving on the border. It's easier, better for them to protect 2,000 miles of the border with a wall. So why not build a wall?
Look, I'm okay for building a wall. We're going to have to legalize 100,000 Mexicans to build, and that's a damn good start. The problem is we tried in 2001 and 2002, and it failed, and we canceled it because of budget overruns. Guys, let's get on to immigration reform. But you know what? President Trump is crawfishing because he doesn't have the votes on his own side. Why do we need the Democrats? Why do we need the Democrats? Oh, we're afraid they're filibustering. The sky is falling. Let them filibuster. Call the bluff. Draw the line in the sand.
All right, wait. One at a time. Let me answer that question. Let me answer that question. The reason you need Democrats is because you need 60 votes in the Senate. The authorization to build the wall is there, but the funding. Hold on.
Let them show their true colors because both parties don't know how to remove the politics from doing their job, just like sheriffs. You guys are all focused on Yosemite Sam in Arizona. Sheriff Bill Wayburn's over here following the law. You guys need to get on the ball. Border Patrol doesn't need help. ICE doesn't need help. We need the laws to be changed. DACA has nothing to do with all of these folks. These are 800, 900.
Wait a second.
Why do we call them dreamers? It's a nightmare. They've never been to any other country other than America, and they're talking about a caravan coming from South America.
Hold on.
You're telling me Border Patrol can't stop them? Why are we funding them if they can't stop them?
Let's give Hector.
That's what they're for.
Hector, hold on. Hector, what's the reality? I went to the Eloy detention facility, okay? Yeah. I saw people from 150 different countries there. This isn't a problem about just Mexico. What is the reality of what you're seeing of people coming across the border?
Jason, this is nothing more but a rampant abuse of our immigration system. These people are coming to our border and making false asylum claims. Most of these claims do not stand up to the judicial overview, and they don't qualify for asylum claims. Many of these people say that they're fleeing their countries, because there's so many gangs and crime. There's no different in Chicago. If you go to Chicago, you're going to see all those gangs and crime. So they don't have.
We can stop any train.
Francisco.
We can stop any train right here in the United States with a push of a button. Don't tell me you can't stop the trains from coming over here across the border. Of course we can. We have a button on the trains. We control commerce in Latin America.
It's not all on the trains. I hate to tell you, Francisco, don't create a false narrative here. There are trails.
Coming up on a train.
I've been down there. I've seen it. I've gone out with Hector. I've actually seen this.
Well,
you can see the trails coming across. You have no case. You have no case for not building the wall.
Border Patrol can't do their job. I think you're wrong. Border Patrol is fantastic. The troops do a great job. Let them do their job and remove the politics from letting them do their job.
But here's the problem.
Just because a union guy is up here telling you
Francisco,
what a union wants, higher wages and
you're an attorney.
more
You
workers.
get this. You understand this. Hector,
I get this.
Help me here. When somebody crosses the border, they don't run. I was shocked when I went down there. They don't run. What they do is they claim asylum. Hector, then what happens?
What we're asking for is for a wall in strategic locations that's going to save American lives, but not only American lives, but it's going to keep our agents from getting assaulted on a daily basis. And not only that, these people that are coming across, they're falling prey to the cartel. A lot of these people are being put into slave labor, sex labor, you name it. They're falling prey to the cartel.
You are the leader of the Border Patrol Union. Less than 20% of the Border Patrol agents belong to your union. You do not speak for Border Patrol. I know Border Patrol agents.
He is a Border Patrol agent. He is a Border Patrol agent.
Insult them by saying they can't do their job.
Francisco and Hector, listen, I thank you both. It is a lively debate. There's a lot more to discuss on this. But I got to tell you, I think the reason the Democrats are fighting so hard against the border wall is that it works. And they want people coming here. And if you claim asylum, hold on, if you come here and you claim asylum, then you're going to be assigned to a judge, and it's going to take you 5-6 years before that case is adjudicated. Yes, it will. That's why. Yes, it is. We'll talk some more about this. Gentlemen, thank you for being here. We got to move on. The border wall is once again taking center stage, as we just said, and President Trump isn't waiting on Congress to keep moving forward on building it. Fisher Sand and Gravel Company is one of 4 companies selected to build the cement prototype, and the CEO, Tommy Fisher, joins us now with more. Tommy, you have designed a big wall. I've seen some pictures of it. It's one of 4 prototypes. The lack of funding is there from Congress. Give us a sense. How big is that wall that we're looking at a picture of right now?
Yeah, ours was a wall, not a see-through fence. It's an actual wall. It's 30 feet tall, 30 inches thick of concrete, and it will work. And one of the things, Jason, listening to the last viewer, we put a proposal on Department of Homeland Security's desk to build 700 miles in roughly 5 years through California, New Mexico, and Arizona, complete with high-speed roads for the agents that will actually work for $10.77 billion backed by a bond. There's no cost overruns. We're here to do exactly what we came to, is deliver border security for every single American, and we can prove it works.
Now, their terrain is not all flat. You've got places with riverbeds. You have some mountainous areas, particularly in New Mexico. So what do you do on those portions of it? Is the wall for the entire span, or what do you do about those mountain areas?
Absolutely no exceptions for mountains. With our patented system, we do step footings on the bottom. We keep a consistent top. We can go up 17% grades and build the roads that the agents can. And furthermore, I included a smaller proposal to build 15 miles in 1 year. So that current fence that they're building right now in Calexico, the government has given basically 300 days to build 2 miles. With one crew, we can build 15 miles. So the difference is we're building a wall, not a fence. President Trump had it right. Congress did not do him justice by basically limiting the only thing they could spend is on a fence, not a wall. Imagine if General Mattis got in the military budget $700 billion, but there was a caveat on that you could only build old military options. That doesn't work. And basically the fence basically wears out in 30 years, best case scenario. I've got places where it rusted in basically 10 years. So our point is,
what about the point, though, some people have said, look, you build a wall, we're just going to build a tunnel. And there really are intelligence of being able to detect a tunnel. What do we do then? How far down into the ground, for instance, does that wall go?
Well, it goes 6 feet, but we have ways that if you cover up with our spread footing where our footings work, you can track tunnels to within maybe 2 or 3 feet of variability. And when I put 2 high-speed access roads on both sides of the wall, you have views both ways. So basically, if they did build a tunnel, we could pull right up on a road, just like you'd fill an old coal pit or anything else. You could basically auger down and fill it full of grout.
Now, so have you had people try to go up and over it? I mean, are people able to go up and over it?
No, because we're going to just think about this, Jason. You're going to have an access road for the Border Patrol agents that's sitting 40 feet off the border right now, that they're on a paved road that the agents can't be detected. So you want to put up a ladder where an agent can drive right up on you? That'd be like you asking to put up a ladder on a highway, and the border agents are coming every couple minutes. So when we build what we can build, literally those agents can travel 6 to 10 times as fast as they do because they have access. In the end, you have to build a barrier, and our barrier lasts 150 years. But then we got to give access to these agents so they can protect every one of our lives.
Well, listen, it's an interesting prototype. I know there are 3 others that have also gotten an approved prototype in place, but I do think personally, I think the president's right. You do need a wall because it works, and anything we can do to help our Border Patrol agents do their job because of the influx is the right thing. So thank you again, sir, for being here. Next up, Andrew McCabe left the FBI as a disgraced official fired for allegedly lying. But to the left, he's a hero. How does that work? We'll look into what's really going on next. Here's a puzzle. Why are the media and the left treating former FBI Director Andrew McCabe as both a hero and a victim? After all, it was McCabe who was fired on the recommendation of the Bureau's Office of Professional Responsibility, an unprecedented move, particularly at that level. Lawmakers Jim Jordan and Mark Meadows told The Angle last week that McCabe was fired because he lied to investigators 4 times. Let's discuss what's really going on here with Republican Congressman John Ratcliffe of Texas and Democratic Congressman John Garamendi of California. I served with both in the Congress. I think highly of both of them, and I appreciate you gentlemen for coming here and wearing your duly noted blue ties. So thank you. Very, very, very appropriate. Thank you very much.
Hey, Jason,
John, good to be with both of you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, you got yourself a good gig here, Jason.
It is.
Miss you back in
If I don't screw up this interview, yeah, that would be great. Listen, I want to play a video. This is from Director Comey in his own words, and then I want you to react to it.
I think reasonable people can disagree about whether I should have announced it and how I should have done it. What's not fair is any implication that the Bureau acted in any way other than independently, competently, and honestly here. That's just not true. I knew this was going to be controversial. I knew there'd be all kinds of rocks thrown. But this organization and the people who did this are honest, independent people. We do not carry water for one side or the other. That's hard for people to see because so much of our country, we see things through sides. We are not on anybody's side. This was done exactly the way you would want it to be done.
So let's go with John Ratcliffe first. Was this done exactly as the way it should have been done?
Well, I think that's why so many of us are asking for Jim Comey eventually to come back and clarify some of that testimony that he gave under oath to you and me, Jason, where he talked about these things. Very clearly, when he made those statements, we need to know whether or not he was aware that Andrew McCabe had allegedly lied multiple times under oath to FBI investigators. We need to know whether he knew that Peter Strzok and Lisa Page were not acting independently, but were exercising extraordinary bias towards President Trump in connection with their official activities. So these are the reasons that we have congressional investigations and elicit testimony from folks like Jim Comey. And I look forward to the day that he comes back and we have an opportunity to clarify with him under oath those types of statements. Now,
Congressman Garamendi, you're a Democrat from California. Do you think John Ratcliffe and the Republicans have a point here? I mean, is this investigation really gone exactly the way it was supposed to be done by the book?
Well, first of all, the investigation about McCabe isn't over.
We don't have all of the information from the Inspector General. That's forthcoming. When that comes out, we'll see more about exactly what happened. McCabe has a completely different version than does the, in this case, the Attorney General who did the firing. In any case, what we need to do is to very carefully study what's going on here. But one point gets lost in all of this, and that is that the FBI actually, in its investigations of the Clinton emails and in the last 10 days of the campaign, did extraordinary damage to the Clinton campaign. And it's really, I think, impossible to say that the FBI somehow was helping Trump when, in fact, the FBI's investigations into the emails, into the Clinton Foundation, and that statement 10 days before the election was extraordinarily harmful, however you want to look at
so, Congressman
the rest of the story.
I think you make a good point, because I think both sides, and that's why it's mystifying to a lot of us that the Democrats are trying to create Mr. McCabe as a victim here. Yeah. Do you support the Republicans' call to give all of the files? I mean, they're under subpoena by Bob Goodlatte. I issued a subpoena. They've never given this, and it's a closed case. So why not give all the paperwork so congressional investigators on both sides of the aisle can look at all this information?
That would be appropriate. Certainly Congress has an oversight role, and certainly you did a lot of that during your tenure as oversight chairman. But with regard to McCabe and in his defense funds are common. Many members of Congress went under investigation.
I don't blame him for going out and raising money. What's interesting here is Republicans are calling for a full investigation and all the paperwork, and Democrats are seeming to resist that. Now, I want to play another clip of Congressman Ratcliffe actually questioning Director Comey.
Did you make the decision not to recommend criminal charges relating to classified information before or after Hillary Clinton was interviewed by the FBI on July the 2nd?
After.
To me, the only way that an interview takes place with the two central witnesses and the subject of the investigation is if the decision has already been made that all three people in that room are not going to be charged.
Congressman Garamendi, I'm going to go back to you again. What are your thoughts? I mean, John Ratcliffe is making a pretty good point, wasn't he?
Well, he also has a lot more information than I do. I was not in that hearing, and I certainly don't know how the FBI would conduct its investigations or make a decision to either charge or not to charge. That is a subject of investigation going forward. Certainly the subject of the Inspector General's report, which, as I said earlier, has not been fully released. It's supposed to be coming out very soon. And the hearings were conducted. If there's additional information that needs to or should be made available, fine, continue the hearings. As I said a moment ago, oversight's very important. But I do want to make one comment about oversight, and that is it should never be a partisan operation. It should be a bipartisan operation. Go to the facts and try at every point to avoid partisanship. Unfortunately, that has not been the case.
Well, let me go to John Ratcliffe here and get your take on it. It's been a long time since you questioned Director Comey. What you've learned, you've looked at, you've been able to read the underlying documents. What in your mind has changed since then?
Well, at the time he gave that testimony, and you were in the room, Jason, you and I were not aware that he had actually written an exoneration statement for Hillary Clinton 2 months before her interview. So, you know, we need to get answers to that. We need to get answers to questions that he gave for other testimony under oath where, as you know, he testified to Congress that the Steele dossier was unverified, but he verified it and attested that to the FISA court. We need the answers to that. We need to, again, know whether or not Jim Comey knew what Andrew McCabe was allegedly doing and lying under oath, as has been alleged, or what Lisa Page and Peter Strzok were doing. All of these are specific questions that we need clarification from that we didn't have at the time that he gave that original testimony.
Now, Congressman Ratcliffe, do you agree with the appointment of Mr. Huber, the U.S. Attorney for the state of in Utah? Did he do that right, or was this the wrong move as well?
Well, I've heard you know, people give a lot of opinions on this. That's not the decision that I would have made. I would have, frankly, done it the other way around. I think a U.S. attorney would have been appropriate to investigate whether or not there was coordination or collusion between the Trump campaign and the Russians. But I think with respect to an investigation into the actions of the FBI and the Department of Justice, that's essentially an eternal investigation. And so I don't think the U.S. attorney is the appropriate person to be investigating that. This is the extraordinary circumstance that would justify a special counsel, and I think that eventually that there needs to be one.
All right, I need to quickly get both of your reaction to President's tweets tonight and about his actions on DACA. Congressman Garamendi, what are your thoughts?
Sure. I'm not sure about tweets tonight. I do know about the tweets that occurred Sunday morning coming out of church on Easter morning and basically trashing maybe 1,500,000 young men and women that came here as children, not of their own volition, but parents brought them here, and in serious jeopardy now if the president has his way. Fortunately,
but the president is blaming Democrats. You're a Democrat. Is that fault on you?
Well, let's take a look at the facts. The Democrats, I know Senator Schumer offered $25 billion for border security, including fences and walls where appropriate, and also in exchange for the full DACA program going into effect.
Let me get John. I got to go. Sorry, the time's short.
Unfortunately, the Republicans added to that some programs that were simply not acceptable, and it didn't pass.
John Ratcliffe.
Well, Jason, as you know, the politics of the DACA program have been dishonest from day one. Democrats took the position that it was appropriate and constitutional for President Obama to take that executive action because they said if Congress fails to act, the president's authorized to do so. But when President Trump took the exact same executive action to undo the DACA program, many Democrats have cried foul. So whether the Democrats killed it or whether President Trump kills it, the DACA program needs to end. That's a distinction from DACA recipients. Republicans, Donald Trump has offered a solution for DACA recipients. Senator Grassley offered an amendment to provide status for DACA recipients in exchange for reasonable border security measures back in February, and 46 of 49 Democrats voted against that.
Yeah,
so,
I just don't know that the Democrats know how to say yes to this. Listen, gentlemen, it was an honor and a privilege to serve with you in the Congress. I thank you both for taking time on this beautiful Monday night to join us, so thank you.
Jason, I wish you well in your new work.
Thank you much. Hillary Clinton didn't just lose in 2016. She's in danger of sinking the Democrats' hopes again this year. How is that possible? We'll explain now. Hillary Clinton just can't stop talking, and it's driving Democrats crazy because it gives Republican candidates so much explosive ammo for campaign ads. Democrats are crying foul, claiming she is not on the ballot, but how can Republicans resist when she keeps saying things like this? Quote, I won the places that are optimistic, diverse, dynamic, moving forward, and his whole campaign, Make America Great Again, was looking backwards. That quote was used by a Republican running for Senate in West Virginia, and who could blame him in a state where Trump beat Clinton by more than 40 points in 2016. So is attacking Clinton smart politics or looking backwards to the last election? Richard Goodstein was an advisor to the Bill and Hillary Clinton presidential campaigns, and author Kristen Tate writes a weekly column for The Hill. I thank you both for being here. Richard, I want to go to you first. Why not? I mean, every time Hillary Clinton speaks, she takes all the oxygen in the room, and what she says is so outrageous to most, I think, most Americans. That's my opinion. Why not keep doing it? Because, I mean, why not?
She didn't say anything in that speech, Jason, that she didn't say in her book. And since she wrote her book, which was published last year, Doug Jones won in Alabama, and Ralph Northam won record-setting margin as the Democratic candidate in Virginia, and Connor Lamb won in a district that Trump won by 20 points in western Pennsylvania.
So are you suggesting that she needs to talk more, that she should keep going out there?
I'm saying that this notion that somehow or other she's tainting other Democrats is fantasy. It's fantasy of some same people, I'm not sure you're one of them, who still want to kind of posit the notion that, well, maybe she might run again in 2020. She's not. She's old news. And it speaks to the emptiness of the agenda that the Republicans are running on, that they have to run ads against her. Sorry.
Kristen, what do you think? Should they keep doing this or not?
Yes. Republicans are running against Hillary Clinton because she's the face of today's Democratic Party. The Democratic Party of JFK is gone. Today it's the party of high taxes, amnesty for illegal immigrants, and disarming law-abiding citizens. It is the party of San Francisco, Baltimore, and Chicago, where crime has exploded and illegal immigration is basically just accepted. And make no mistake, Jason, all Democrats today are exactly the same, and that includes so-called moderates like Joe Manchin. They all vote lockstep, and not a single Democrat supported tax cuts for working Americans. Not a single Democrat supported the wall. Not a single Democrat supported the repeal of Obamacare. These are the values that Hillary Clinton represents, and she is the most well-known Democrat in America today. So, yes, she is the de facto face of Richard's party, which has become completely out of touch with working-class Americans and, frankly, has gone off the deep end.
All right, Richard, does that make your blood boil, or do you agree with all that?
You know, I'm saying bring it on, Kristen, because, again, if what we're seeing, we have a president at historically low popularity ratings.
That's not true.
Richard,
come on.
Richard, he's higher than Obama's was at this point.
Well, hold on a second.
Term.
You both know at this point in his presidency, there hasn't been a president this unpopular as Donald Trump. Sorry.
I disagree.
Richard is lying on national TV. That is just not
maybe
true.
He's not, no, I won't go that far. I think he sincerely believes that. But anyway, regardless of a couple percentage points here or there.
And all I'm saying is that in every election, the enthusiasm that we saw starting the day after Donald Trump was inaugurated with that Women's March has carried through. Everybody thought, well, it might dissipate, but every election, the Democrats up 15, 20 points over whatever the prior election had been. And if anybody thinks that look, you know, Jason, better than anybody, that all these retirements of committee chairs in record numbers aren't happening against a backdrop of the Republicans feeling so gosh darn good about their prospects in 2018. Dozens of Republican incumbents are being outraised by Democratic challengers. That doesn't happen when things are so rosy as Kristen's painting.
Kristen, go ahead.
Okay, look, there is a lot of enthusiasm on the left, but that's in spite of Hillary Clinton, not because of her. And Hillary Clinton made it very clear what Democrats think of Trump supporters, that they are backwards deplorables. And here's the thing, Democrats who are up for re-election in states like West Virginia, where Trump won by 40 points, they're going to need some of these deplorables to vote for them. So the more vocal and visible Hillary Clinton is, the better it is for Republicans. And luckily for them, she doesn't know how to keep her mouth shut.
So let's put up a quote here. This is a quote from The Hill. Lloyd Green wrote this on March 28th. It says, while Clinton frustrations are understandable, she should get off the stage along with her dismal poll numbers. For Democrats, a vanishing Clinton allows them to break with the turbulence that marked the Clinton years, their aftermath, and Trump's win. The question is whether Clinton will give the Democrats the breathing room they need. It is, if past his prelude, don't bet on it. So my question, Richard, is who is the leader of the Democratic Party? Who's leading? And what policy? Name one leading policy that they're going to run on in 2018.
Well, first of all, here's your answer to the question: who was the leader of the Republican Party at this point 4 years ago? Was it Paul? I mean, it was not anybody who ultimately ran for president.
No, I understand your point, right? But who is the leader? So when Hillary Clinton speaks, is she not still the leader of the Democratic Party?
No, of course not.
Is it Nancy Pelosi?
It's a combination of Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi, frankly, and a lot of younger Democrats who are coming on the scene and speaking about a platform to help people where
so that platform, name one thing that the Democrats are going to drive forward in 2018.
Let me give you one example. Remember, Donald Trump said to the black community, support me, what do you have to lose? The answer, they could lose health care, they could lose Medicare, they could lose Social Security because of these ballooning deficits. So there's ways in which
you're going to run as a deficit hawk? You're going to run as deficit hawk?
Here's the platform that Democrats are going to run on, okay? Open borders, higher taxes, and not repealing Obamacare, which has been an epic failure. There is their platform. And who's the face of that platform? Hillary Clinton, whether they like it or not.
Somehow or other, the public's not quite where you are, Kristen. If the president's popularity numbers are any indication, and all these incumbent House Republicans getting out of the House. Look, Jason had a colleague who said to me recently, I got out undefeated and unindicted. Okay, and
hey,
I think a lot of these,
right.
and I think a lot of these Republicans are getting out while they can, with their dignity intact.
Richard and Kristen, thank you so much for being here. Up next, President Trump could soon hold a summit with Vladimir Putin, but will it hurt or only damage his administration? Stay tuned. Washington is suddenly abuzz with speculation over the prospect of President Trump meeting with Russian President Putin, just as relations between their countries have hit a new low. The United States and Russia recently expelled 60 of each other's diplomats. But today, a Kremlin foreign policy advisor said that Trump invited Putin to the White House during a phone call 2 weeks ago. Let's get the inside scoop and go once again to Fox News chief national correspondent Ed Henry. Ed?
Jason, great to see you again. This may turn out to be a lot more hyperventilating by President Trump's critics more than anything else, because it's not even clear tonight that this expected meeting or summit between Presidents Trump and Putin will even happen at the White House, even though that's what the speculation is. But President Trump's critics are jumping on this claim because it fits a narrative that the White House is too cozy with Putin by suggesting the president will host him at the White House, even though, ironically, the president's critics are using a statement from the Kremlin that claims the invite to the White House was made during that March 20th phone call that became so controversial because of a Washington Post report that the president ignored his advisor's advice to not congratulate Putin about his re-election victory, even though then-President Barack Obama also congratulated Putin under similar circumstances a few years ago. So the Kremlin claimed today the summit may happen at the White House, adding, quote, a meeting would be rather important and beneficial for both countries as well as for the entire global community. But Sarah Sanders, the White House press secretary, quickly responded this was not really new. Quote, as the president himself confirmed on March 20th, hours after his last call with President Putin, the two had discussed a bilateral meeting in the not-too-distant future at a number of potential venues, including the White House. We have nothing further to add at this time. In fact, this is not really new because last week, this is what the president said.
We had a very good call, and I suspect that we'll probably be meeting in the not-too-distant future to discuss the arms race. I think probably we'll be seeing President Putin in the not-too-distant future.
So this was already hinted at by the president, you see there, though no location has been confirmed. That did not stop the president's critics today. David Frum tweeting on his do not congratulations call to Putin in wake of nerve agent attack in UK when all NATO was imposing sanctions. Trump invited Putin for a White House visit. Remember again, President Obama met with Putin many times while he was in office, as well as meeting with President Dmitry Medvedev when he was in office. And that's when there was that infamous exchange where Barack Obama said he would have more, quote, flexibility with Putin after his own reelection, Jason.
Thanks, Ed. It was a huge diplomatic triumph for Trump to arrange a future meeting with North Korean dictator Kim Jong-un. Similarly, meeting with Putin could also help mend relations, but not without risk. Let's look into the prospects and perils with Jim Hansen, who's the president of the Security Studies Group, and former State Department official and Obama campaign advisor David Tafuri. David, I want to start with you. Do you think the president's making a mistake here, or should he meet with President Putin?
This was pretty stunning news because of the timing of how this happened. First of all, it happened in a phone call with Putin where President Trump's aides urged him not to congratulate Putin on his election win. He did that anyway. Now we find out today, not from the White House, but from the Kremlin, that President Trump also invited Putin to come to the White House. The question is, why is he doing these things, sending positive signals to Putin when everyone else, including our allies, are pushing back against Russia? When we've just expelled Russian diplomats, we're trying to send a message that Russia has to back off, but President Trump quietly, secretly, is sending the opposite message. And
David, are you really arguing that the two leaders should not meet and they should not talk? You think that that's bad?
No, I actually think it's good to meet with foreign leaders, even our adversaries, but you have to do it in the correct way, and you can't have a mixed message.
What's wrong with saying we should meet in the future? I mean, look, come on.
He didn't say let's meet in the future.
When the president is diplomatic, when the president is diplomatic, you give him a hard time and say, oh, well, he should have listened to his aides. But if he was standoffish, you gave him the stiff arm and said never, ever, then you'd be criticizing him for not being diplomatic,
You know,
right?
Jason, I saw you on Fox News Sunday this weekend. You talked about how you were surprised that President Trump now wants to pull out of Syria. You disagree with that view. Yeah. You were very polite about it, but I agree with you. Why is President Trump also pulling out of Syria now? He suddenly announces
You're kind of off
That's
topic here. I'm just trying to see if the two should talk together in a meeting.
No, but it's the best thing in the world for Putin. That's what Putin wants. He wants us to pull out of Syria. He just spent a couple hundred mercenaries
you're off on Syria. I'm just trying to ask if they should meet.
U.S. forces in Syria, and a couple weeks later, Trump announces we're pulling out.
Okay, let me bring in Jim here.
Message.
Jim, you have a perspective on this. Should the president and President Vladimir Putin, should they get together? Is that a good, healthy thing for the country and the world?
Of course they should. And the idea that somehow when Trump is talking to Putin, he shouldn't suggest this is ridiculous. When else is he going to do it? The two of them are the two top leaders and the two people with the most to deal with right now, including Syria, as David just mentioned. Right now, Russia, Turkey, and Iran are meeting to carve up Syria. President Trump needs to get in front of Putin and tell him not to do that. So the idea that some are saying that this is Trump groveling, like the hysterical Jen Rubin column in today's Washington Post said, is ridiculous. He's trying to get Putin in front of him so they can sit down and talk about things like Syria, like North Korea, like the major issues that are facing our two countries. That's President Trump's job.
So, David, do you worry that it's at the White House, or do you think there's another venue that you should be there? And what is your worry about the two world leaders talking together?
My worry is about the message that we're sending to Russia when we're trying to create deterrence towards Russian conduct, including the conduct where it used nerve agents against people on the soil of our ally in England, when it sent mercenaries to attack our forces in Syria, when it had a bogus election to elect Putin. We should be deterring that type of conduct from Russia. Russia is an adversary to the U.S. Russia is against democracy. It's against rule of law. And we're allowing Russia to spread
more. The United States President Trump did more to punish Russia. He did more to punish Russia than the Obama administration ever did.
That's absolutely
incorrect. When those mercenaries came in, and attacked us in Syria, we didn't talk about it. We killed hundreds of them. All right, the idea that Trump is somehow soft on Russia, when he's done that, he expelled the diplomats. And if you don't want to have that region turn into war in the Middle East, maybe you should talk to the other major power that's playing proxy warfare in there and try to de-escalate it. The idea that somehow, should we go to war with Russia because they put a few Facebook ads up calling Hillary Clinton Satan? That's hardly the worst thing they've done. There's a lot bigger things in play, and I think President Trump and Putin need to be face-to-face to talk about them.
You know, you make a really good point, Jim, but the fact is that mercenaries went and attacked our forces, and while our forces were in danger and they fought back against these Russian mercenaries, President Trump is making nice with Putin. It doesn't even make sense. It's not appropriate conduct. It's not appropriate conduct for our commander-in-chief. And one other breaking news that's really troubling is that now we learned today that that we were expelling Russian diplomats, but actually Trump has said it's okay for them to come back. He's expelling these 60, but 60 more can come back. It's not even a punishment. He has done nothing to push back. All right. Yes, that's the news today, Jason.
All right, listen, one good thing that I can tell you I think is in a good place is that the ambassador, our U.S. ambassador to Russia, is John Huntsman. I served as his chief of staff, and I do think we're in good hands there, and I think both sides of that would agree that they did pick the right ambassador there in Russia. I thank you both for the vigorous debate. I'm sure there'll be a lot more to discuss about it. And thank you again for joining us. The PC police have a brand new target. We'll tell you which part of our history they're now seeking to erase. Coming up next.
We're waking up America, and we're telling them what's going on in the world. And that is such an awesome responsibility, but it's fun. What we're trying to do is not only tell you what's going on, but the backstory.
We're able to tell the folks at home, hey, this is important to you. This is why you need to listen. We have a great, honest conversation about what's happening in the news.
When people meet us, when they see us, they feel like they know us, because guess what? They do. The only way to be successful on Fox is to be yourself.
And you know what? We do that every day.
American history is on the chopping block again. First, the PC police pulled down Confederate statues across the country. Now the California town of Arcata is preparing to take down a nearly 9-foot-tall statue of President McKinley because of the federal government's treatment of Native Americans. And more towns across America are poised to pull down statues deemed similarly offensive. So where does it stop? Let's discuss this with Urban Game Changers CEO Shirley Husar and radio talk show host Ethan Behrman. I really appreciate you both being here today. Ethan, I want to ask you first, why is this so important? Why do you think they're trying to do this? And why now on President McKinley? He doesn't have a whole lot of statues. So why take this one down?
Absolutely. I mean, it's a great idea to take it down because we're bringing attention to the issue that the Native Americans have been abused and a near genocide was committed against them. We established treaties with them in 1868, 1869, and then immediately reneged, stole land, stole the natural resources from under them. And William McKinley was the last of the presidents to openly steal land from the 5 civilized tribes. He was on the side of the timber company stealing from the Ojibwe in my original home state of Minnesota. Yes, let's bring attention to the fact that we have never addressed all of the wrongs we have committed against the Native Americans. It is a perfect time to do it.
Well, I think we have addressed it a long time, and there have been a lot of wrongdoings against. Oh, yes, they have. There's still a lot of wrongdoings against the Native Americans throughout their history. I would agree with that part of it. But tearing down this statue, surely, is this the right thing to do?
No, it's not the right thing to do. I mean, if you look at American history today, the pedagogic killings that took place back in 1843 to 1873 was very tragic. And yet we know that colonists came to California and they changed the history of California. Look, history, the existence of history is based on pain, war, and triumphs. We, under this administration, are making major changes. The Native Americans today sat down with the current president, the living president, President Donald J. Trump, and made changes in the summertime. What is tragic that I'm hearing on the other side is that they're saying that's relevant today. It is not. We have slaughtering that just took place, pedagogic killings that took place in Sacramento with Stephen Clark. Why aren't you talking about the black people that are being slaughtered today? A tribe of people that are still at war after 400 years. Why aren't you talking about the 20 guns, the 20 shots that shot and killed this man? You want to talk about the Native Americans? Native Americans, if you're not even Native American, and if you were, I have Native American in me as well. And I tell you, we focus on the side of where we are. We need history to be shown and to remember. You can't erase or eradicate what happened back then, but what you can do is look at this pain and move through it.
Ethan, where does this stop? I mean, I don't know that it's going to right all the wrongs by tearing down a statue. I think you're missing the point of understanding history, the good, the bad of it, in tearing down this statue. But what is that actually going to do for Native Americans, and where does this stop?
Well, there are two things. First off, the statue is being removed after an EIR and CEQA get addressed. It's not being destroyed or melted down, so it can still be used for teaching history, where nobody is trying to erase history. What we're trying to do is bring attention to the fact that, look, in my lifetime, I was getting trained to be a foster parent in Minnesota, and that's when I learned about the Indian Child Welfare Act of 1978, because we were still stealing Indian children in 1978. 2016, we're still addressing that issue. So if this brings attention to the wrongs that are still happening to this day against Native Americans, I'm all for it. And by the way, to the other point there, I talk about Stephen Clark on my radio show too, and the wrongs that are being committed today to the African American community.
Shirley, is this going to do anything to help the Native American population by tearing down this statue?
No, it's not. The Native Americans in this country are thriving under this administration. Like I said previous, they've created treaties of oil deals with their land, with American people, and they have other things going on in their life. Stephen Clark and people like him, these PC people, want to pivot away from the real pain that is current and relevant. In 2018, we have the slaughtering of African American family and children on the street. This young man, Stephen Clark, was in his backyard, shot 20 times. He was slaughtered. That is the person those are the people you need to be focusing on and pivoting away from Native Americans who are not even complaining. Black people are complaining. For some reason, we're being stepped on and left over.
Well, listen. Look, I had the honor.
You listen. You're not understanding that black people in California are at war. Are we not in war in Northern California right now? Tell me.
Listen,
are we not in war in this state right now? The sanctuary cities right now in Huntington Park are meeting and they're voting against it.
Thank you. Listen, the plight of the Native Americans is a serious one. You want to go to the most impoverished parts of our country, you go to some of these tribal areas and some of these reservations, and you'll see poverty unlike any other place in this country. And I do hope we do address it, but I don't think we're going to solve it by tearing down this statue. So thank you both for being here. How do you play baseball with just one arm. Piece of cake if you're as tough as this kid. You don't want to miss this amazing story. This kid will inspire you.